What the fuck? Come on.
It says you're live.
Yeah, it says live.
I don't see anything on the watch screen. Let me hit the refresh.
Nah, it's gonna take a minute for the watch screen. You're
Okay,
live.
it's up.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, everybody. Thanks for coming. I'm going to introduce the guests real quick, and then we're going to get started. From left to right is Ramblings of a Nobody.
What's up?
We got Taco Salad for the first time ever on my streams. Thanks for coming, Taco.
Yeah, good to be here.
We got the resident big name, Edgy Sphinx here.
Greetings, everyone. Got my MAGA hat.
Yeah, I know. That's looking pretty bitchin'.
Very sexy.
You might be in line for a terrorist attack with that hat on, though. All right, next is Dick Cheesehead, the failing male symbol. For some reason, I don't know why he likes that. The limp male symbol, getting bitched by a female symbol.
Getting dirty.
I see. And then Cheshire Cat.
Resident shitlord reporting in from a toaster in Liverpool.
Yeah, I probably should have gave you your locations, but what the hell. I put links to everybody's pages in the description, and I just want to get started with some stories here from the news. Who wants to go first?
Tom, I'm not seeing the watch link on your stream channel.
Oh, I'll get it for you.
It's been hard trying to find something decent because everything's been about Brexit for like the past few months.
I found a article called 7 Things True Feminists Just Don't Do.
All right, well, let's look at that one.
Alright, let me, I can't screen share, so I'll send the link and then...
Okay. I'll run it for you.
No, I'm too late. I'm sorry, guys.
Oh, it's Modwin. We just got started. We're going to let Rambling do his news article first.
Let me just pull this up.
Pull it up.
Oh boy.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
All right, now I got to learn how to screen share. Oh, my God.
Yeah, I have no idea how otherwise I would, so I'm a little bit,
All right, can you guys see it?
Yes, I can.
True feminists do, and then... Oh, they don't do. Okay.
Yeah, so things they don't
do. All right.
And the first one is kind of interesting.
Okay, go down to that. So, it's this here, what?
This entire article is literally Scotsman, the article.
Yeah, no true Scotsman.
Yeah.
There's no feminist. Oh, well, it's no true feminist, no true Scotland. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they admit it right off the bat.
They really do.
See, it says right there, in fact, feminists don't make prejudgments about anyone based on their privilege. First of all, how can you possibly claim to speak for all feminists when there's no unifying
consensus.
Yeah,
there's absolutely no consensus in feminism whatsoever. It's you have an overarching term, and then you have a bunch of different groups that have all vastly different ideals that all identify under one unifying banner, and they all assume that they're all the same.
There's one thing they all do agree on, though.
That they're feminists.
They all agree that men have privilege.
I don't know. Christina Hoff Sommers identifies as a feminist, and she doesn't think men have privilege.
Yeah, she identifies as a feminist, but then again speaks out against feminism more than most anti-feminists I know.
Well, that is a fair point. That is a very fair point.
Have you guys heard of Camille Paglia? She's the same way.
Yeah.
I mean,
I've heard of her, but I haven't seen anything about her.
You know, Paul Elam in one of his videos a couple months ago, he took a swipe at Christina Hoff Sommers and basically saying, guys, I know that she is on our side in a lot of cases, but she still wants a gynocentric world. In other words, men to pay for things, to protect women, and kind of like that. And I think
I'm sorry, but that's a world that I support.
Yeah. Right, and that's a thing that I think that the MGTOW are big into. No, we're done with it. We can't trust women anymore.
No, MGTOW are just a bunch. I personal opinion, MGTOW are just a bunch of angry men who are angry because they can't get a girl that they like. So
Yeah,
they
I
throw
agree
away
with you on
every vagina that comes their way with the assumption that it's all going to wind up in a 40-year marriage that they don't want anything to do with.
Wow, that's horribly unfair.
I
don't you
disagree
think?
with you on that. I think MGTOW is the other side of the coin. If feminism is a coin, MGTOW is the other side of the coin.
Yeah, that's the flip
is not
side.
the other side. Indeed, egalitarian is not the flip side of feminism. I mean,
Is this
feminism and
whole
MGTOW
theory
are
like the
basically the
horseshoe
same
theory?
game. I'm sorry.
Is that like? Are you trying to say this is sort of like the horseshoe theory?
I'm not quite sure what you mean with that. Sorry.
Basically the horseshoe theory is I forget how exactly it's worded, but like the horseshoe, it comes around, and as it gets to its ends, it comes together, like close together, right? Horseshoe shape.
I understand
As
what you mean.
opposite
But
as they
no.
are, they're the same.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
They
To
are.
which
what
I'd say they're like, it's more like the omega signs, where it gets close and then it shoots off in complete opposite directions. MGTOW don't want anything; they just want to be left the fuck alone.
That is very fair. I should
Yeah,
say
I
I
mean,
don't
that's the kind of-
honestly believe that, but I just like to be funny with that kind of stuff.
I mean,
Yeah, but that's why I didn't say it's
problem
like.
I have with MGTOW is that they complain. They want to complain about all these issues that men have, and they are legitimate issues. They are legitimate inequalities in the court system.
Yeah,
and,
no doubt. They are legitimate
But,
problems.
but the problem is that they're basically saying, oh well, I give up and I'm not going to do anything or say anything to try and fix this problem. And that's where it becomes an issue for me. Is like, okay, well, why if you're not going to advocate against these things, then
Why do you have a standing whatsoever?
right.
Yeah,
like,
but
exactly.
that's why I don't think it's the horseshoe thing, and I did say that the other side of the coin, they are completely the opposite. I mean, they are excluding themselves from feminism.
Well,
and
yeah,
they're
but
not fighting
at some
against
point,
feminism because they don't care about it. They know they lost the fight, so they are going to do the one thing that they can do. I mean, you can't, or at least they feel, you cannot engage feminism because then you will only support them in their victimhood.
Is there something wrong with like a protest movement? I don't see anything wrong with that. I've had
There's
enough.
nothing wrong.
That's it. I only say that because that's where I'm at. I mean, I'm not one of these guys that makes MGTOW videos because listen, most women don't really have anything to offer me, so I'm like, go fuck off. See you
There's
later.
nothing wrong with being a protester.
Yeah.
I'm an anti-feminist, and I'm not MGTOW, so that's.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to defend MGTOW. I'm just stating that I understand where they come from, and I don't see it as a horseshoe thing that MGTOW and feminism are close together. I really see them as the flip side of a coin.
I'm kind of
Well, yeah,
advising my boys to think in MGTOW terms. You need to be really, really careful. Having seen as many men as I've seen get burned.
and
Yeah.
you should
Not
teach them to be
just
careful.
by feminists, but by narcissistic value systems that we have now.
Well, that's the
but
problem.
society at large at the moment.
That's the problem that it stands. It's like, most women don't espouse feminist views and all that. But the fact of the matter is the court system is in their favor. And if they're willing to use the court system against the people they supposedly love, that's where the problem lies.
Yeah.
Obviously it isn't a problem until they actively do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, at most, I would think of myself as being at most like a MGTOW light sort of thing, where it's like, I'm not going to totally, I acknowledge all these problems, but I don't want to just say that, oh, I'm just stepping away and I'm taking my ball and going home. I'll still talk to women, I'll still interact with women. I'm not necessarily going to go out of my way for them unless I meet, a really,
Unless you meet that special someone.
right.
Yeah.
You mean romantically? I mean, I if I am in a work environment, man or a woman, I don't give a shit. Let's get
Right,
the work
yeah.
done.
Yeah, exactly.
But in a romantic or a relationship, you need to be careful because this state, then Taco will back me up on this, this state has got its fucking hooks in the men too much. It's just way over the fucking top.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that brings up my libertarian kind of stream into me. It's like I just have a problem with the state even being involved in marriage from the get-go, because obviously once the state's involved, it's going to reward, a victor and basically, somebody who's lost. And unfortunately, because our society is set up to where we want to protect the women's, who ends up being the person that wins in this.
So basically, what you're getting at is the state turns marriage into a game of who can win.
Well, it's
no,
who comes
yes
out on top.
and no. Marriage itself isn't bad. It's when it ends that's when it turns
No,
bad.
no.
That's why I
Marriage
think
itself
marriage
is not
shit.
necessarily bad, but once the state gets into it, is what I'm.
Right, and the only thing is that there has to be some, I don't know, state involvement because you're going to have, in most cases, children. And so...
I believe there's a fine line to everything.
Well, here's the thing. When you buy a house, like, everything's written out. It's like a very arduous process. Like, every little thing is written out that you have to do X, Y, Z, Z, so on and so forth. When it comes to marriage, you just show up at the courthouse, be like, yeah, we're getting married. That's it. Like, no power of attorney, like, no deciding, like, how property is going to be dealt out if we go through a divorce. It's like, why is it so hard to buy a piece of property, yet to get into marriage, like, you can show up drunk in some states and you wake up, I'm fucking married. And the court system will tear your wallet out through your ass. I don't know if you ever heard that saying, but like, if you're a man, you can get really fucked in a marriage.
Most states have these default rules, and it runs like this: the person that works the hardest and has drawn the most income into the marriage will be fuckered.
Yeah, that's bullshit. Like,
because everything that you acquire during the marriage in what they call community property states, or states that most states follow that kind of idea, belongs to both of you. So everything that in the typical case that the man worked for all the time while mom stayed at home and got free rent and all of that, it goes. At the end of it, it gets split in half theoretically after the lawyers get their hooks into a big portion of it.
Yeah,
So,
well, that would be acting as if being a mom is the same as working I don't know, a 60-hour work week. I don't know, breaking your back, like fixing shit. Be like, are we gonna sit here and say that these two things are comparable? Because I would say not only no, but fuck no.
If I may,
John does some really good work on this, and think of all of the benefits the stay-at-home mom gets: free rent, free utilities, free insurance, free health care. You start adding that up, that takes away babysitter wages in a fucking hurry.
And I'd hate to point this out, but like, evidently there's so much free time that there's this whole like television genre dedicated to women that sit at home. I don't know if you ever heard of soap operas, but it's like, obviously they aren't working that hard. I mean, I don't watch TV at work. Sorry.
Oh yeah, well, it's hard to say. It just depends on the size of the family, I suppose, and what they do. But yeah, I mean, generally speaking, when they divide up the property at the end of a divorce, they don't take into account what we'll just call them the leecher got during the course of the marriage. They only figure out what you've obtained during the course of the marriage. They don't figure out how much the other person leached on you during the whole time. And that's why men generally get screwed. But you'll see cases now where women are freaking out because they're having to pay.
Yeah, they're on the receiving end. And
yeah.
It's like, oh shit, be like, no, this is no longer fun for me.
Yeah,
So
I
there's
thought
a
I'd be the one
hint of
making it up.
correction just because of that, but we'll see. It'll have to be way in the aggregate that it favors men, I think, before the law will change. All right. Well, we're going to have to move on. I know we didn't get very far, but we'll come back to Rambling's article.
Works for me.
Whose
If
article's
someone else
next?
has something.
Yeah.
I'll go next if you want.
Yeah, go, bud.
All right, so I actually have two here. They're sort of related. This one I found on wbur.org, which is I believe it's a Wisconsin public radio station, so it's not far from me. But the headline is, "Your beliefs about terrorism and Islam are a hot mess of myth and illogic."
Oh God, please,
Oh,
please,
boy.
oh God.
Yes, I wrote that headline. Your views on terrorism are a plate of scrambled eggs consisting mostly of fear and fiction. I'm not picking on you. I'm not. Well, not entirely. When it comes to terrorism, the media have done a poor job of providing context and have frequently rushed to judgment, invoking the Islamic terrorism tag when it was premature to do so. The Orlando attack is simply the latest example of the 24-minute news cycle insisting on the answer just hours after an attack.
Okay, I have one question about that. I've heard a bunch of different things. Does anyone know if he was confirmed to be part of ISIS or not?
He claims to have worked in honor of ISIS.
Yeah,
He
I had
dedicated what he
heard. Yeah,
did to ISIS.
Yeah, that's all I've heard. I was wondering if there was anything else on that.
Well, he was pledging allegiance to ISIS on the 911 calls that he himself called in. So, and they took credit for it as well. So, I mean,
yeah. So
Yeah,
seems-
well, but ISIS took credit for it means little to me because ISIS is a bullshit organization anyway. But the fact is that the guy did it because he stands behind the.
ISIS.
That's the problem.
Right, right.
Yeah.
I mean, they're trying to take this technicality and say, oh, well, we don't know if he was actually part of ISIS, as if that changes the fact that he said
Okay,
he was
no,
doing
and
it for.
Yeah, at the point he says he was
literally
doing
said-
it for it, so it doesn't fucking matter.
He literally said that he was doing it for the leader of ISIS. May God protect him. It's literally what he said.
Yeah, so then it doesn't fucking matter if he had an official connection or not.
No, there doesn't need to be an official connection. The connection is the one that he himself made. Therefore,
It would just make it
Yeah.
worse, right? It would just make it worse. It doesn't. If somebody goes and commits an act of terrorism in the name of Allah or whatever, Islam, and they do it to, I don't know, get fame for an organization like ISIS, that's bad. That's terrible.
Yeah, that's horrible.
But if ISIS were involved in training this guy,
It would be a lot worse.
yeah.
why would it be a lot worse though?
Not in
Yeah,
terms of
here's what-
damage, but in
you-
terms of our security measures.
Here's the actual.
Yeah, that's
fucking-
what I'm getting at. It wouldn't be worse for the fact that ISIS actually did it. It would be worse because it means that they have a lot of more reach here than we thought.
Here's exactly what he said. I pledge allegiance to Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. May God protect him. Said in Arabic on behalf of the Islamic State. So even this unredacted transcript, the corrected transcript, like the I mean not corrected, but the unedited transcript is still a little disingenuous if you ask me, because they say God as if he didn't say Allah. Like,
well, Allah is God.
yeah, but I mean, in it changes the context a little bit. It gives people a different impression because
It really does.
like, but okay, so let's see what else is in this piece of shit article. I am less sympathetic to the politicians. Many of them are also human and honestly believe the falsehoods they propagate. Others are more clever. They know better but won't let facts get in the way of a good talking point, especially when the camera lights are aglow. This smaller but particularly cynical set of office seekers are primarily interested in self-advancement and not national security. If whipping up hysteria about terror and Muslims is good politics but bad public policy, so be it. So then they go on to look at this evidence here. I'll zoom in on this a little bit. So they say these things like, after a sharp rise in recent years, terrorism around the world declined in 2015 by nearly 15%. As if that doesn't mean that there are still thousands of incidents happening every single year, because there are.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
you
just saying that it declined by something. You're not giving any hard numbers.
Right, or they also say this: nearly 80% of all terrorist attacks take place in 5 countries: Iraq, Syria, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Nigeria. Since 9/11, only 0.5% of all terrorism deaths occurred in the West. So their goal here is to say, oh, well, we don't have a lot of terrorist attacks in the West, so it's not really a problem. And my answer to that is that this is kind of a self-defeating argument, because the reason why there's so few terrorist attacks in the West is because there are so few Muslims in the West. If you took enough Muslims to make 50% of the country Islamic,
You'd see a lot more of that over here.
yes, exactly.
Exactly.
Because
They're working on that, man. Just give them some time.
Yeah, because what they omit here, what they don't really say here, they're careful to avoid acknowledging that these are Muslim majority countries here. All 5 of these countries are Muslim majority countries.
Everyone's careful to ignore that fact alone in most cases, though.
Right, and here's one I really like. Contrary to the commonly held belief, Islamic fundamentalism was not the primary driver of lone wolf attacks, with 80% of deaths in the West from lone wolf attacks being attributed to a mixture of right-wing extremists, nationalists, anti-government elements, and other types of political extremism and supremacism.
Yeah, basically, this is relativism, saying, well, it's not the only one that does it.
Right. Now,
So
of
basically,
course,
if you're like white and Christian, you're just labeled right winger.
yeah. Now, of course, if you ask the FBI, I went and found this nifty little terrorism report. This is a little dated. It's from 2001. But
Just a little.
yeah, but according to this report, there were 482. According to the FBI, there were 482 incidents deemed to be terrorist attacks between 1980 and 2001. And if you look here, you see that 130 of those 482 incidents were left-wing. 85 of them
were right-wing.
Yes. So this article that I have pulled up here completely leaves out left-wing extremism, completely leaves out La Raza and Aslan Nation and black nationalist groups.
No,
and,
see,
and
left-wing
What about the
eco-terrorists.
weather underground types?
Right,
Those
yeah.
people.
Left-wing extremism is considered the social norm nowadays. though.
It's normal.
They're being ignorant. They don't
They
want to
aren't
be
even extreme. They're just murderers.
I'm just saying, left-wing extremism is like fucking television nowadays. You can walk outside and find 3 different shows with the same fucking thing going on.
Right. Okay, so here's another good one. In the U.S., and this is a pretty big caveat here, that they want to make you feel safe by saying this. They want to diminish the threat of terrorism by saying this. In the U.S., you are more likely to be killed by your spouse than a terror attack carried out by an Islamic extremist.
That doesn't make me feel safe. That makes me feel a hell of a lot worse.
It's an absolutely meaningless statement, because going back to this point about nearly 80% of all terrorist attacks take place in 5 countries, they are very careful to step around this key factor here. The common denominator between all of these countries is that they're Muslim majority countries, and that is why so much terrorism happens there. That is why we don't have a lot of terrorism in the U.S. is because we've kept the Muzzies out for the most part. But if we start importing more of them, and I want to play a clip for you guys here.
Start importing more, like bananas.
Holy shit! This guy comes fucking prepared.
we do that sometimes.
I got one article for you guys. That's it. Hopefully nobody else covers it, because we're done.
Well,
I'll
let's
just argue with you
the
about
topic?
some other shit.
The worst refugee crisis since the end of World War II, and I think the United States has to do more, and I would like to see us move from what is a good start with 10,000 to 65,000 and begin immediately to put into place the mechanisms for vetting the people that we would take in, looking to really emphasize some of those who are most vulnerable, a lot of the persecuted religious minorities, including Christians, and some who have been brutalized, like the Yazidi women.
You see what she's doing here?
Yep.
She's trying to lump them all into one.
Right. She's speaking of a region of the world which is has a very, very small minority of Christians. If you proportionally look at the population of these countries and look at the way it's distributed and then apply that to her 65,000 number, you're talking about maybe like 1,000 Christians if you're lucky, maybe a couple thousand.
Yeah, well, they're being systematically wiped out as we speak. So I mean, the number grows a little lower each day.
It becomes a little bit worse than that, though. I mean, everyone is talking about Syrian refugees. And most refugees that come to Europe aren't Syrian. We have a lot of people from other North African countries. But Europe has
you have
the biggest
Pakistan, you have Afghanistan, you have all sorts of
Morocco.
countries.
But here's the funny thing. People seem to think that the only refugees come from the Middle East. And everyone seems to have forgotten that the Ukraine is in a civil war as well. There are over 1.5 million people displaced there as well. You know how many of them are welcome in Europe?
Probably not too many of them.
I will round it up for you. 0. They are not welcome because the European Union has declared Ukraine to be safe. Funny enough, though, there is 6 billion euro being spent on the refugees. They're not supposed to come to Greece at the moment, but they're going to have to stay in Turkey. So Turkey is going to get 6 billion euro to do that. You know how much money Europe has spent for the refugees from the Ukraine?
I'm going to say 0.
Yeah.
It's more than 0. It's 350 million euro.
More than 0, less than a lot.
Well, it's 350 million is a lot, but if you compare that to the 6 billion for the refugees from the Middle Eastern, it's bullshit.
It's chunky.
I mean, I can show you pictures from. I made a few movies about it. I can show you pictures from areas in Ukraine which have been destroyed by the civil war going on there. And trust me, I'm not saying Syria is not bad. I'm saying Ukraine is equally bad. But no one is talking about that. Absolutely no one. I challenge you to find a lot of information about it. You simply won't.
Well, here's my thing. I would actually give a shit about Ukrainians, whereas I don't give a shit about Syrians. So,
Yeah, you should.
I feel for them.
Ukraine isn't even a real country. It only exists, it only exists as like a remnant of the Soviet Union. It was never a real country.
But it still exists. There's still people there. I mean, we can say they're not a real country, fair enough, but there are still people being killed there. There's still people displaced there. It's still an issue.
Yeah, I mean, and they are white, so that counts for something.
They're white. They're more likely to integrate in Western society than Muslims have shown to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would definitely agree with that.
Yet we ignore them because they don't count because they're not Muslims.
But just to round this out here, this is the one last thing that I want to. This is the end of the article here. None of this is meant to suggest that terrorism is not a threat. It is, in part because we play into the terrorists' narrative and make it scarier than it is. And as 9/11 demonstrated, high-casualty terrorism is exceedingly rare but enormously consequential, often because of how we react to it. But if we're serious about preventing the next Orlando, then we may have to give equal and separate attention to risk factors that have nothing to do with Islamic terrorism. And we can start by substituting facts for fears and logic for labels.
Shit.
Oh, my
Well,
God.
I would agree that terrorism is rare, but the fact of the matter is, when you see the kind of terrorism we're currently having happen, it's by like a certain group of people, and probably we should like name those people at the very least, and not act as if this is just some like random lone wolf guy, or more so like they're being driven by a certain ideology, where their holy book, tells them to do certain things like I don't know, kill non-believers, gays.
But you guys, didn't you hear what Obama had to say about it?
Yeah, he should be forcefully removed.
On the other side.
Well, let us hear it then.
My friends on the other side of the aisle have made in the fight against ISIL is to criticize this administration and me for not using the phrase radical Islam. As one defector said, ISIL is not bringing Islam to the world, and people need to know that.
ISIL is not bringing Islam to the world, and people need to know that.
What exactly?
Yeah, because you're acting like a cocked faggot. Like, that's why we say it.
Yeah, but you hear what he says at the end there. What exactly would using this label accomplish?
It
Give
would
your fucking enemy a name.
it would get the public behind the idea of closing the borders from people with that kind of mindset, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason I never say, or I try to avoid saying ISIS or ISIL or whatever. I call it what it is. It's Islamic State. That's what this name stands for. By saying ISIS or ISIL, I feel like you're sort of obfuscating that, because it just becomes, it becomes a word that people sort of associate with something else in a weird way. They don't really, they forget that it means Islamic State. Like, this is
It gives them like the shield to be like, well, not all Muslims are like that, so
in all
everybody should
fairness-
shut up about it. Be like, this is
In all
what their
fairness, though,
religious book says, though. It says
How
to kill
can-
non-believers. It says to kill gays. Like, their imams say this shit over and over again, and we're supposed to sit here and be like, this isn't what their religion espouses?
But how can you expect America to criticize ISIS, or at least criticize them harshly, when ISIS is basically a next form of Saudi Arabia? I mean, the difference between ISIS and Saudi Arabia is Saudi Arabia is already a state. And America considers itself a good friend of Saudi Arabia. So if they speak out too harshly against ISIS, people will recognize the double standards. People are already recognizing the double standards. And that's the problem that America has with Daesh or ISIL or ISIS.
Well, I mean, the time to get your shit together for the U.S. is now, and get this thing figured out before we, I don't know how many was it, over 200,000 Syrian refugees we're going to have come in, and it just makes sense now to not let this get out of hand, because if we look at countries that have large Muslim populations, it just gets fucking worse and worse and more regressive. And
Look, I hate to say it, but America has a long history of not doing anything until the situation reaches a boiling point. And the boiling point here is we are going to wind up... We're basically going to wind up getting to a point where there's no going back.
Well, can I perhaps put like a point in there?
Yeah.
In the Constitution, where does it say that we have any obligation to pay for people to come from a foreign country into our country?
Absolutely none.
Okay, so if you're currently bombing a country, like bombing the shit out of it, bombing all of its inhabitants, we have collateral damage everywhere. Why would we believe it be a smart thing to then be like, okay, well, we know we may have killed like your brother and sister, but we're gonna take you in and think these people come and have no like ill will towards Americans?
Yeah,
that seems like psychopathic. I don't know. It seems
somebody sent out a pretty dink meme about this yesterday. It was like, okay, we can't get our fucking federal background checks for fucking firearms figured out, but we can figure out Muslims halfway across the world whether they're a danger or not.
We can't.
I mean,
they basically said that we cannot.
Yes.
They have no way of verifying any of these people that they want to bring here, but we're still going to do it, right? Because we really give a shit about safety.
Well, yeah, I mean, did you guys see Justicar's video on the whole FBI thing?
Oh yeah.
He brought up the great point that as of 2009, they released a report in 2009 admitting that they had like 65,000 people on the terror watch list who did not belong there, who did not have any, and there was no probable cause, or I can't remember the exact wording he used, but basically there was no reason for them to be on the list. They could not be shown to have actually done anything wrong, and the FBI is just so incompetent and inept that they hadn't removed those people from the list, and that was in 2009, so there's no way of knowing what it's actually like now.
Well, imagine the gross amount of power you give to bureaucrats that can just basically, without like any kind of a court hearing, can just basically say that, oh, this person needs to be on this watch list. So they could essentially say, everyone in this chat, whether they're even Americans, these guys all present a threat, and all of them should be on this watch list. Therefore,
Right.
none of them should have any second want. Well, yeah, I know that's exactly what they want.
Yeah, I mean it's a very it's symptomatic of bureaucracy where you have all these unelected people. Nobody voted to give these guys this power. Nobody can vote them out. And there's just nobody watching over them. There's nobody keeping them in check. And basically, they can just by decree put you on this list. I mean, I could be on this fucking list for all I know. I don't know.
I imagine I could be on that fucking list too. But they had 4 gun control proposals that went through the Senate Monday. One of which was there'd be a 3-day waiting period where if there was some sort of suspicion, it would have to go to a judge and then be deemed like, okay, is this credible or not? Guess who voted against it? Democrats.
Of course they did.
They had a chance for a form of gun control, and they said, nope, we're not going to go for it.
Well, yeah, because it's not as authoritarian as they
It's
would
not
like.
what they want.
Yeah, it's not as
Well,
bureaucratic as they would like.
Well, why? If they would have actually went with that, then what do they run with through the election season? These people don't actually
Right.
give a shit about saving people.
They just
it's
want something to argue about.
Right.
They're trying to re-win the Senate. So you know what? They don't want this to actually be fixed. They want this to continue into perpetuity. They want this to continue on until they can attack. They don't give a shit about American people. They certainly don't give a fuck about gay people. Like, let's be honest here. If we actually gave a fuck about gay people, we would have had barricades in front of that club, because guess what? There's a lot of people that don't like gay people, including the right wingers. So obviously they don't want to keep them safe from the right wingers either, right? That one
Yeah,
that one
I
pastor.
disagree with that, though. I mean, if you're going to barricade because of the chance of, then basically you've already lost. I mean, I forgot his name, but he said, those that are willing to trade in freedoms for safety deserve neither. And
Well,
I agree with that.
I meant more like
Just a screening.
barricade was a bad word to use. How about heavier security, or maybe not having
Yeah,
I would still say no.
Security or something.
I would still
remove
say no.
gun-free zones.
I would still say no. Listen, if society is not safe for these people, then society has a problem. If we are going to make society safe for these people by enforcing safety, then we have a problem still.
Well,
These people
there's
are
no
to be part of
right to
society and
safety.
safe. No,
There's no
listen,
right to
I'm not saying there's a
safe.
right to safety, but either they are safe in society because society will have.
You're
make
never going to
sure
be
that-
completely safe in society.
I know you're not ever going, but as long as you're going to need people to secure you, you have no safety whatsoever.
No, you
but
don't
you are
need people
losing.
to secure you. You need to
No,
secure
you do not.
yourself.
If you
I have
need,
a concealed carry permit in Florida. I've
Yeah.
decided I need to
good for
secure
you. That's, I wish you all the luck with that. But
same thing.
if you need it, then you'll have no freedom because you are already afraid.
I'm
There
not
is
afraid of
no-
anything. I'm
Then why do you
ready
need
to
it?
protect
Then why
myself.
do you need a gun with you?
Okay, hold on, one at a time. All right, he asked the question, so go ahead, Taco. Why do you need a gun with you?
Because shit happens in life, and you have to be ready. You can't hope for somebody to be there to save your ass from something. You're the best first defender.
Yeah,
Plain and simple.
I
The cops show up when they show up. I used to be a cop, so we show up to pick up the bodies, we throw them in the back, and we take some reports, and that's that. It
Right.
sucks for you.
And I look at it from a natural law kind of
Well, yeah, that
standpoint.
too.
I have a right to my life, and I have a right to defend my life, and that includes reasonable means to defend it. And it's unreasonable to expect me to defend my life against some fucking well-built cocksucker with a machete in the streets. So I should be able to have a gun to equalize that defense. I don't see any limitation on my freedom except you saying that I can't defend myself. That's
that's not the point I'm trying to make.
okay.
I don't mind that people carry guns with them. I mean, listen, if you have a carry permit, fair enough. I do Viking reenactment. I have a sword at home, and when I'm on an event, I have my sword on my belt. So I have a weapon with me as well. I don't care about people carrying weapons. But if you carry a weapon because you feel the need to protect yourself, that means your society isn't safe. And everywhere something can happen. Of course, there's no way to guarantee 100% safety. But if you try to go for 100% safety by carrying more guns or by creating more safe zones, whether it is with or without guns, because guns are not the issue in this, the only thing you're doing is you're creating more feeling of insecurity.
All right, I'm going to agree to disagree. Like the way I see
I
it
don't
is
know
that
about that.
I don't have a need to feel safe. It's just like I realize that my life is in my hands, and that's how I treat the situation.
Yep. All right, we're going to go. Cheshire, are you ready to present your article?
Yeah, I was just looking because I'm pretty much sick of talking about Brexit. So I found that shit about Zelda.
Oh, man, I can't hear you very well. Can anybody else? Are you having problems
He
hearing?
said he's sick of Brexit, so he wanted to find something about Zelda.
Oh, okay. Well, let me go ahead with my article then, okay? Because we're going to try to end up early because I guess Kraut and T is going to try to have a stream on the new YouTube policies. And so we'll try to end early to get everybody over there.
Okay.
Let's see. So I'm just trying to rush everybody's articles through here. Now I got to learn how to screen share again. Fuck me. I hate. Oh, it's so painful.
You shitting go. What's going
All right.
on?
Let me make sure that this is staying up. All right, so my article is why Trump banned the Washington Post going nuclear over a bad headline.
He banned the Washington Post?
Yeah, from all of his events. And what happened was it's in here somewhere, the Washington Post is a left-leaning rag, of course, and they led with this fucking headline. Donald Trump suggests President Obama was involved in the Orlando shooting, which was total bullshit, I guess, because the 90 minutes later, the paper softened it to Donald Trump seems to connect President Obama to the Orlando shooting.
I know Donald Trump's a loud, angry, obnoxious asswipe, but I don't think he's that stupid.
I don't either, and I don't see the quote. I think what he was saying was that Obama was soft on Islam.
And that was the reason.
That does not a connection make.
It doesn't really.
That does not a connection make. That is fucking mental gymnastics and straw manning to the extreme.
Listen, Washington Post, Huffington Post, I forget what the other one
They're all
was.
bullshit
but
news. They're all bullshit news sources. I know.
they deserved that banning. Like, you know, that was very good by them.
I think it was. You know, people will say, well, that infringes the First Amendment right to freedom of the press. No, you're entitled to report what you find, but
he's
you're
also
not
entitled to not talk to your
private
ass.
events. You're not entitled to go to a private event. Fuck. No.
Well, yeah, it's like saying like dead. I got an echo from somebody. Dead State or like U.S. Uncut or the other 98%. Like, these aren't legitimate news sources. These are people that just do nothing but write slander pieces against the right. It's not news. It's quite literally propaganda. And every once in a while, the Huffington Post has like a grain of truth in it. Same with Washington Post. But these people are ideological. It's like saying that Salon is like somehow like the most legitimate of news sources, or like the Mary Sue. Like,
Wait, hold on, wait. You don't think Salon is a legitimate news source?
I think they do.
Hey, Christy Winter cites Salon to prove. What did she prove with that?
Who
Oh
knows?
God! She actually responded to me on a comment I left on one of her videos.
But yeah, I agree with you. In fact, Trump has already barred Politico, the Des Moines Register, the Daily Beast, and BuzzFeed. Like that's a fucking news source, but.
National View, that makes sense because National View is just, it's full on just anti-Trump all day.
Yeah.
Like, that's what they do. It's a conservative news piece, which is kind of odd in this cabal of people that are being banned, but like, it makes sense. Like, these people really dislike Trump, so I feel like that's pretty adequate thing to do.
Yeah, it's about the only thing he can do. I mean, other than Edgy had been talking about it in previous streams that I've seen him on, that, you know, Trump has been talking about tightening up the libel laws for these guys that run untruthful news reports. And you
I
know
would be
what? I think it.
absolutely in favor of that.
I think it could.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Who do you give the power to that decides these are worth
A third
going
party.
after?
Well, it's always the courts that try these cases.
Yeah, I would go a
I-
third party in court. I wouldn't.
I'm
give it
a little
government
scared who you give
jurisdiction.
that party to.
And our libel laws come up from the common law, right? The common law of England. And we've built on those. Every state has enacted, as far as I know, their own version of libel laws, but they're basically really close to the same. And one of the things, it's really, really hard to go after somebody that lies about a public figure. And I think that could be drawn back to, just, regular libel. If you're lying about somebody, why do you get to fucking lie about them? I don't get that. I understand why you get to print your paper, put anything in it that you want.
You
but
get to
if
lie
there's-
about people because TMZ is a major news source.
well,
But if
it-
they are lying, why can't? I guess the chilling effect is what you'd be worried about, Taco.
yeah, that part of it, and like if you look back in history, I'm going to forget. Like this is back like early in our country's founding, but basically they made it illegal to say anything about the sitting president. I saw it in like the 10th Amendment Center. I'd have to like go back and look at what president was, but it was early in our founding, and basically it was illegal to say anything about the sitting president. Be like,
China has laws like that.
well, yeah. Or do we really want to emulate China?
Right.
No. But
I agree with that. I don't want to go down a slippery slope
No.
thing. But if you are printing untruths that you know are and have been notified that are untrue, and you don't retract those, I mean, come on.
There should be some kind of punishment.
Yeah. Not
Well,
that you can shut your
perhaps
newspaper down.
You're printing untruth that could possibly like lead to some sort of I don't know, lawful action by the police or like investigative authorities. Like if you're saying like so and so broke this law when they clearly did not, but then it turns out, well, they may have actually broken that law. I could see that, but like, yeah, I don't know. If somebody like just says, "Oh, Trump's a racist, Trump's a fascist," be like, yeah, like I think they should be allowed to say those things, even though there's really no evidence that he's either of those things.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. But there's also, I think you could, in the law, distinguish between a private individual saying those things and a publication,
Declaring those.
Yeah.
Well, all they'd
I
have to do
think-
then is just quote it, We were speaking to it so-and-so, and then put some quotation marks. It's not us saying it, somebody else is saying it. Like,
Yeah.
you really get into some murky water.
Yeah, there's really easy ways to get around it once
I don't know. I don't know.
there used
I
to
just
be-
don't like putting the government in charge of those things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, look at it this way, though, Taco. The government already is, because our court system already handles libel and slander.
Yeah.
Well, the question is it set at the right breaking point? Because things that you are saying about Trump, racist, and all of that stuff, you could not say about me, because I'm enough of a private figure that I could come back at you if I wanted. And
They can probably only come back at you if, like, say you would accuse somebody I was trying to get this parking spot before Tom, and Tom whipped in and said, something, hey, listen, nigga, try again next time, or something like that, and they got you fired. Like,
Yeah.
that example. And then they go to your employer with that and be like, oh, he's a racist, but it turns out none of that happened. I could see that, but just because somebody decried something but nothing actually happened, be like, they claimed I was a racist. Be like, well, he claimed I was a racist, but nothing happened. I doubt you could really get anything sort of moving within the court system.
That's he said, she said, and that goes nowhere.
Well,
Yeah.
no, it
Well,
doesn't go
with
nowhere because you can't show damages.
Well, if it gets you fired from your job because your employer per se, if they're like a small company and like something like perhaps like the local paper comes on, and be like, local business has racist on board that said this to X, Y, and Z. Your employer might be like, I can't keep this guy around. They're saying he's racist, so they fire you.
Yeah.
It turns out you
you
never said
definitely
anything
could
racist.
get that paper for printing that shit. Definitely, absolutely. I don't.
But that's the thing. If they're quoting somebody,
I have to cut in here, guys. I have to cut in. This is totally irrelevant. Has nothing to do with anything. But
He's attacking my faith.
can't hear you.
He's attacking my faith.
Always attacking.
What was she saying?
She's attacking my faith.
He's attacking my faith.
What is she saying?
He's attacking my faith.
What fucking faith?
Yeah, I'm glad.
Hey,
Magnus
it's
is here.
Magnus.
Well, I know her faith. I
Hey,
can
Tom.
understand her faith.
Yeah, it's gone.
Her faith is, bitch needs to get paid. That's her faith.
She got faith in those dollars, son. Dollar bill.
No. What I was trying to show you is that
Her
she
faith isn't green, the color of money.
read the word sigh off of her teleprompter. When it was supposed to be a cue for her to sigh, and she read the word sigh off the
Really?
teleprompter.
I didn't hear that then.
Yeah, it was to whoever made that Vine is fucking incompetent and made it way too quiet. But
Yeah.
whatever.
I mean, this is coming from the political party that, like, during their last DNC convention, like, they were booing at God, and, like, basically, like, they did, like, a voice vote, and, like, like, the convention members said, okay, it passes, even though, like, half the crowd's booing, half the crowd's yang, and it's like, I don't think these people are very friendly to God, because, like, I'm not a very God-fearing person with any shape of the matter. But, like, are we going to sit here and say the Democratic Party is, like, a big God-fearing convention there?
I'm not going to say that.
They
I
don't
think
seem like
used to
it.
be True, maybe when Carter was elected, but that's been a couple of years ago.
Perhaps within the black constituency that votes for the Democrats, like, they're really religious, but I don't really believe that a lot of, like, white, like, liberal, like, really liberal Democrats are by any stretches of the imagination religious for any reason.
Well, I'm not sure about that, to be honest, considering that politically you have to be religious or you're basically fucked.
Well, in the general election,
But-
that's been pretty much the case, yeah.
But that's like the blue dog Democrats. These are the kind of people that, like, still like guns and shit. That, like, you're talking about, like, Southern kind of people. But, like, Democrats in general, especially, like, the more, like, people that, like, skirt towards the very left of the left, those people aren't religious.
I'm not sure, to be honest, considering that at this point in time there aren't that many non-religious senators in the U.S. Senate, I know, are there?
Well,
Here's the thing, Modway.
they
It's
play that
just because
game.
they claim to be religious doesn't mean they actually are.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Well, and I'm happy to be hearing reports from all sides that a lot of the old fuck Democrats are voting Trump.
Oh, yeah.
Well, those are the blue dogs.
Yeah.
Those were the Reagan Democrats. They don't like what's going on, so they said, fuck these people. We'll jump ship.
Well, Hillary is not exactly someone I'd vote for.
Yeah.
Well, I don't fucking blame you.
I mean, just not someone I'd want to throw my hat into the ring for.
Wait,
Look, let's just not vote for Satan, please.
Yeah.
So we got...
Actually, I'm kind of in favor of her taking a trip upstate.
yeah.
well, yeah.
For her server bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Listen,
pissed off
there,
about that and Benghazi. I'm still fucking pissed off about that.
Well, and me and a friend of mine actually were speculating about it earlier. We think the reason why Hillary wasn't very pissed about Bill Stupp and Monica Lewinsky was because she was fucking her too. I actually got to amuse myself by thinking Hillary's got her face down there between Monica's legs. She sits up and goes, "Bill's smoking those fucking cigars again, ain't he?"
You cheeky bastard.
That is just gross. That is absolutely gross. You are a gross human being. You with your Alabama hot pocket.
Well, they're better that than the Alaskan pipeline. I mean, come on.
I don't want to know, man. I don't want to fucking know. Can we get this back on topic?
Well, so that's what I was going to try to do. So, Edgy, you're kind of with the idea of clamping down on libel and slander from the press, aren't you?
I mean, to a certain extent, as long as it stays within the realm of actual, like the legal definition of libel. I think the main problem with the laws right now is that it's impractical for, like you were saying a while ago, Tom. It's impractical for the average private citizen to actually take action with it because it costs so much money to do and it's so time consuming and there's so much red tape. Because this is tort law we're talking about. This isn't criminal law.
Right.
Anybody saying that. Well, that Trump wants to lock journalists up or anything like that is talking out of their ass, because libel is not a criminal offense. This is a civil offense. This is a civil court thing.
Right.
So I think the real problem with it is that it's too difficult for most people, even for some wealthy people, it might be too difficult to actually do anything about it.
The if you're a public figure under most statutes, in other words, a politician, a movie star, some kind of advocate or something, and somebody goes after you, then it has to be with knowing malice, and it just doesn't have to be they were negligent. So in most cases,
that's not necessarily true, though. I mean, when Mitt Romney was running for the presidency back in 2008, literally Harry Reid stands there on the Senate floor and says, "Oh, Mitt Romney doesn't pay taxes."
Well, hold on. The problem is the Senate has a immunity period.
Yeah,
they could say
that.
any. Well,
Yeah.
They have.
Well, that's kind of my point there. Like there are certain spaces where evidently you can lie your fucking face off,
Right, exactly.
straight through your teeth, and it's completely okay, which I find very dubious. Even Hillary Clinton was saying, like, earlier this week, Donald Trump, perhaps he doesn't pay taxes either, and she isn't standing on any Senate floor. From where I was standing, from looking at the TV, it looked like a rally.
Well, as far as I'm aware with the libel laws, it's only libel if you print something without any that's not fact based, like telling a total like the way they talk about Trump, just saying, "Oh, he's a racist, he's a sexist." They've got no proof to back it up. So technically, very technically, that is libel.
Yeah, libel and slander both fit under the category of defamation, and the rules are basically the same nowadays. But there's two standards. If I say something about Magnus that hurts him in a substantial way, that he can prove damages, he can sue me for doing that if I am merely negligent. But if he's Donald Trump, I have to be the thing I had to do. I had to have said with malice. In other words, full knowledge that it was completely fucking utter bullshit from the beginning and designed to take him down. Now, that's a much higher legal standard, and I don't understand why the difference, other than Taco Salad bringing up the idea that if somebody's running for office, you want to be able to advocate against them, but I don't think you should be able to be. If you're a public paper or a corporation, be fucking lying or negligent even,
Well, what I mean is like so many things can be said at so many points in time. How would you actually be able to go against that? Because I mean, let's face it, it was crap. I should have brought it with me. But basically, some hacker leaked the DNC playbook, and basically it said, Trump's a sexist, Trump's a racist, all these attacks that you've been hearing that like are sort of baseless. Be like, listen, if I say Rosie O'Donnell's a fat pig, that doesn't mean I hate all women. It's just be like, well, I think Rosie O'Donnell's a fat pig. Sexism means you hate like
Right.
all
There's
of the sex, not like
there's an
I
exception.
made it,
Yeah.
but that's what their game plan was.
You're
You got to
entitled.
paint somebody.
You're entitled to your opinion, right? And you can say whatever your opinion is. So I can say like, I think that Donald Trump is a racist. I'm entitled to that opinion, but I can't say like you said, Harry Reid about Mitt Romney, or Donald Trump now. He doesn't even pay taxes. He's never paid taxes. Well, that's not a fucking opinion. That's a fucking right. I mean,
That's a statement.
right.
It's a
Either
state. It's
true or
just
false.
Well,
right.
and just so everybody in the audience understands, if it's spoken like that, that's slander. If it has to be written to count as libel.
Right.
Well, no, that's exactly how Harry Reid put it. And not only that, it's like if you actually know that information, you're like in conspiracy with somebody else releasing a private individual's, taxes. Like, how do you know this? Like that should have been pressed on him. He should have been dragged before some sort of tribunal. Be like, how do you know this, and who told you?
And where's your proof?
Yeah, and where's your proof? Yeah.
Right.
And if you don't have any, you need to be smacked on the ass.
Yeah. Well,
Wow,
you
it's very
actually
rude.
when you go to court, if what you said, even though you didn't know it to be true, if it was ultimately true, you're still not guilty of defamation because you didn't tell an untruth. You just lucked out.
Well, yeah, that's I think it's called scienter.
Yes.
Like where you say where perhaps like if you're rambling off the cuff and you say something and it happens to be slanderous, but you didn't know it was slanderous. But even still, like these people that are making these attacks, these people, they're well scripted. Like it's been documented. Like this is exactly what they're going to say, and they are all on the same playbook. Like you don't hear the same thing from every ABC, EFHNG, whatever, news agency, the same fucking thing, because they're not all in the same playbook.
And just for everybody in the audience, welcome to the Tom Sequitur Show. We're an educational program.
Educational. One day I'll learn my ABCs. I was thinking ahead of myself. I forgot them.
I learned
just
my
said some shit.
ABCs a long time ago.
Yeah, I went to the same schools as you did. I went to government schools. They failed me.
I learned my ABCs. It's everything after that that I have trouble with.
Yeah, I fucking. Yeah, I
At
went
least
to the
you learn
army
your
to fight
ABCs
brown
and
people.
whatnot. I mean, nowadays when you go to school, you learn how not to do calculus.
Calculus is sexist.
Yeah, all those vectors and things. Actually, I can't really say anything because my motto since high school has been math, not even once.
Yeah. How about you?
After I flunked out of geometry, I said, fuck this shit, I'll be a trucker.
The last time I did math was when I came home drunk after being at the strip club, and I'm like, okay, how much money did I spend? Be like, well, minus what I had, so then I spent this much.
The last time I did math in school, I was in 7th grade.
Well, but Taco, I would imagine much like me, if you went out to the bar, wondering how much you spent is the second question after, where the fuck are my pants?
I'm more like wondering, like, how did I get home? What is this place I'm in? Is this actually my home?
Oh my god.
Be like, my hotel room didn't look like this yesterday. Why am I in a bathtub full of ice?
Why does my back hurt?
Oh.
I'm in severe pain right now. Is
Why
this
does
normal?
my ass hurt?
Oh, no. If you're asking that question, you went to the wrong bar.
Yeah. Listen, I wasn't in Orlando.
Well, see, the
okay?
best question is, you went to the wrong bar, and then you wonder how you wound up at the gay bar. Because I started drinking in a no fucking town. I started drinking in a no name fucking bar down the road from my house, and I wind up at a gay bar in Tampa.
Okay, now that's a drinking adventure we could do a full hangout about.
Anybody else have a news story that they wanted to share?
I read today that Texas House approved legalization of recreational and medical marijuana.
The Texas House?
The Texas House, yes.
BRB moving to Texas.
No, don't, because the people down here in Texas already drive like they're on drugs.
That's true. Hey,
Well,
when are they seceding from the union? That's what I want to know.
Oh yeah, that's right. That was the other one I had. Because of all the talk with Brexit, someone in Texas is talking about seceding from the U.S. again.
Hashtag Texas.
Yeah, Texas,
that's
man.
never been-
I could literally see myself moving to Texas if they did that. I'm
Dude,
bringing
like the
all the guns
Republic
with
of
me.
Texas.
Yeah, Texas.
I'll be a part of the militia.
No.
No, I think they actually quashed that idea quite a while back because Texas realized they would no longer be getting certain federal funding if they did that.
Well, you
Well,
see,
yeah, I had heard about that, but this was written yesterday.
Oh wow.
So I mean,
that thing has been going. That like the conventions of the states, secession efforts. That's been going on for a while.
It's continuous in Texas.
Yeah, in
but
Texas.
no one takes it seriously.
Well, it gets. I notice it. That's the only reason why I
You
jumped
noticed
on
it,
that.
but I really doubt it's ever going to go anywhere. But this thing with Brexit is.
I'm looking for Brexit to be a springboard. I wouldn't mind like states seceding. I'm more of the anarcho-capitalist type. Like I would be okay with like government completely disappearing, but I realize
but don't compare a Brexit with a Texit, to be honest. I mean, Great Britain is a state. It is its own country, and the European Union is basically a collaboration of countries. It's
I thought you meant
state.
don't compare England with Texas because Texas is fucking 10 times mightier.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's not what I meant. But
fucking with you, Modway.
The thing is, I mean, the United States of America has way more history than the European Union has, to be honest. And the European Union is stupid enough. It's not a democratic union.
Well,
and this is the main problem.
We had to come together to defeat the Brits. I mean, so
True.
We're more of a cohesive unit, whereas we all consider ourselves Americans. Whereas
we had
the
to
EU,
America.
Nobody says we're e-unions.
And eventually we had to send two old fucks, one wearing a coonskin cap, one with a three-corner hat, with an underage Indian to find the rest of the place.
Yep.
Yeah, there is that. But you also are politically bound. I mean, if Texans vote for the President of the United States, their vote still has merit. You could argue whether it's the best way to do it or not. But in Europe, Europeans don't really have a right to vote for who's in the European Union. Well, you can vote for someone, and that someone can vote for someone else, and then they decide who will be in the different, subgroups. And this is the problem, well, one of the problems a lot of Brits have with it, well, not just Brits, more Europeans, to be honest. Because the European Union is a lot of things, but it's not a democracy.
Well, that's why I
weird.
want to push back on you EU guys. Give America shit all the time for having an electoral process instead of a direct democracy. like you could actually fucking do a direct democracy.
Well, but the problem is that a lot of Europeans don't really see the European Union. I mean, if you look at America, America is basically one country
Yeah.
to the rest of the world.
Yeah.
Well,
Europe is not one country.
Well, now we did buy Louisiana. Made the Louisiana Purchase from the French back in the 1800s or mid 1800s.
No, early in
Fair
the
enough.
18.
But the European Union still isn't one country.
Well,
it's a
no,
lot of
what
different
I was-
sovereign countries.
What I was about to ask though, is it too late for a refund?
Well,
Probably.
Fuck that. You guys in the original 13 can
yeah,
just
the
fuck around.
original 13 could really fuck us over. Be like the original 13 can be the original 13. I'll stake my piece in Florida, and everybody else can fuck off.
Yeah.
But no,
I
we
wanna
we
get
are
down on
we are
American
considered
flag
one
best we
nation,
can.
but we're still in fact a union. I mean, the whole fact of the matter is the federal government of the United States only exists because the individual states allowed it to. You know, we are still many parts of a union, and we do hold as our local legislators for the state can say we're going to secede. Now, granted, it's not very likely because basically the federal government holds us hostage by saying we're going to steal a bunch of money from you and then give some of it back to you, you know. But
Well,
yeah, if
not
they-
only that, Abraham Lincoln set the precedent. If you do cede, we'll just fucking roll in with troops.
Yeah.
well, yeah.
Well,
but
That would
I
be
mean,
for a different. I suppose a different day, a different issue.
Different day, different
I don't think slavery. I think everybody can say that that's wrong no matter how you fucking justify it. Although I would think slavery was on its way to death anyhow because
well, it was in the Western world.
no, it's because we became more industrious, more productive. Slavery, if you're
wasn't
forcing
getting
people to
shit
work,
done.
yeah, no, it wouldn't have gotten anything done. Those southern states would have went so broke, which they were already doing, that there's really a lot of people would say there was no point in fighting that war. I'm on the fence on that one. A lot of libertarian, historians, like Tom Woods. I'm drawing a blank, but there was maybe not that big a reason to fight that war, and perhaps if we hadn't, we would not have these race issues we have currently. Who knows?
Well,
Yeah.
and
But
from what I understand, though,
But coming back on the European and United States Union thing,
testes, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, we can hear you, man.
I can hear you,
Oh.
mate. Sorry, I'm interrupting you. It's not nice of me, I know. But
It happens.
I really do think you really cannot compare the American Union with the European Union.
No, I agree with you on that. I agree.
No,
with you.
yeah.
Because
Well,
It's
that
completely
is
different.
no compare. I mean, the American Union is still a republic union, but it still ties every state together. Where the European Union is becoming more and more distant from the people. It's doing stuff that member states have absolutely no control over, yet do not understand why they do them.
You're just comparing them fucking apples to apples right now, buddy.
Well,
No, no,
Mod
no,
Wayne,
no.
here's the way I understand it, though, is that the European Union is sort of their way of the United States has got a sweet deal. The only problem is they were like, but let's do this in a socialist fashion, not the way America's actually doing it.
No,
It's not even done in a socialist fashion.
I get what you're saying. It's like what we're doing, but on steroids, and there's
Well, I think mainly
less-
the only difference is the history of the European nations being sovereign nations. A lot of our states were, before this, fucking just wild territory. A lot of them. And they never really had, they went immediately from being one of the 13 colonies to a state, part of the Confederacy of States, then to a nation. None of our states really had any of this individual sovereignty set into it as a national identity for a long period of time, like you see in Europe. That's the main difference. And the other difference Modwayne already hit on is, well, we've been like this for a couple hundred years, and what the European Union's been around for, what, 40 or so? Or,
Yeah, and that's
What,
one
that
of the
started
problems. I
70s
mean,
or something?
we have trees in this country that are older than the United States. At the same time, we have cars in this country that are older than the European Union. Which, I mean, the European Union is pretending to be this big state and it's all combining. But the top politicians in the European Union are doing stuff where the people in the European Union, the civilians, don't even recognize why they are doing them. So in the end,
It's you know what they're trying to do is they're trying to abolish all of the independent countries of the EU, but they're doing it slowly. If they're going to do it, they should just announce it, and
the
then
problem
that'll
isn't
be the end of it. But the fact of the matter is, if they did that, they know that it would be like just complete chaos. So what they're doing is they're eroding away at the walls of individuality.
yeah, you know, I don't agree with that. Even if they would do away with all the countries, I think people could stand behind that if they did it in the right way. But we are doing stuff that we're all thinking, why the fuck are we doing this? I mean, Greece is in a financial crisis because the European Union bought the financial how do you call it, debts of Greece. Why did the European Union buy the debts of Greece? I mean, they were debts to particular banks. Fuck those banks.
Well, maybe
But now
they needed a
because-
good lubricant.
Well, probably. But because they bought the debts, they are now European debts. Which is a problem. I mean, they're doing stupid stuff like that.
They're doing everything that they can to not have anybody fall out of the European Union.
But, you know, by buying the debts, they made the situation in Greece worse. I mean, they were private banks. If Greece forfeits on private banks, then okay. Greece
Sure they did, but they're trying to lord that over them to stay in the Union, right? I mean...
Yeah, well, I'm not sure if it's... I mean, maybe, but then they're doing it in a very stupid way.
Well, welcome to libertarianism. Like, we have a very strong disagreement with central banks. You know, trying to buy up debts and prop people up. Be like, it never will work. The United States is currently going through this with Puerto Rico, and we're poised to basically bail Puerto Rico out. But we aren't bailing Puerto Rico, the country, out. We're bailing out all the people that hold debts in, not debts, they hold treasuries in Puerto Rico. But, of course, we're being basically lambasted. So we have to help these Puerto Rican people because they're one of our territories. But bailing them out doesn't help out Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is falling into basically the same, problems Greece is, but we're being told that if we bail Puerto Rico out, we're helping Puerto Ricans. No, we're basically bailing out the people that hold all the treasury bonds for Puerto Rico.
Exactly.
So you're helping the rich people and fuck the poor people. And this is what Europe has done to
And what
Greece.
happened with the 2008 financial disaster, same fucking deal.
Bingo!
Yeah.
I was about to mention that too, Tom.
Yeah. But, I mean, this is also funny because if you look in Europe, Europe had a big problem because of the financial crisis. Most banks in Europe that had a problem got saved, except for one bank. One of the first banks in Europe to fall down was iSafe, an Icelandic bank. They were not the only bank that crashed because a lot of banks crashed, but Iceland basically said, you're a private bank. You crashed. Fuck you.
They should have all been that.
They should have
Every one
all
of them.
done that, but none of them did. Only Iceland did, and Iceland was the first out of the economic crisis. Hell, I'm in the Netherlands. We are still in an economic crisis. Iceland's been out of it for 4 years now.
The thing is, it's like giving crack to like somebody who's trying to get out of being addicted. You're like, okay, well, we're gonna fix his addiction by feeding him more cocaine or crack or whatever. Be like, you don't fix the addiction by like giving them more drug. Like
No, but
literally, you have to let them. Yeah, you have to make them go through the bends or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that's the problem we have with the European Union, though. And I mean, I don't really care that much about the European Union, but I do understand Great Britain saying, we got to get out. And I'm not
No,
sure if they will get out, but I can understand that point. I really can.
I honestly, I think that they're going to be chilled at the very end, and it's going to lose by a very small measure, and they're going to stay. But
Well,
that's my prediction.
I hope they're
anybody
going.
want to place bets? Place bets, anybody?
Well, my
bet
prediction,
Taco is 100% right.
my prediction is that because of some of the things I've heard, they're going to vote out, but the government's going to be like, nah, fuck you, we're staying anyway.
Well, in all fairness, I hope they're going to stay. Don't get me wrong. I hope they're going to stay, but I hope it will be the stick that the European Union needs to get beats around to finally start some real changes.
That's not how governments work.
Once you've been a part of a federal system like we have for a couple hundred years, you'll realize that's not how. You don't move these fucking people that are unaccountable. They just keep doing what they fucking do.
Yeah, but that's the problem, though. They shouldn't be unaccountable.
Well, I don't know what to tell you, bud.
The only way to make it accountable is to fucking say we're fucking done with you.
Yeah,
well,
at least they're accountable for one country.
Mod Wayne, look at our country right now. Bitch is running for president, and she should be under federal investigation so heavy you can't see daylight.
Well, she is, but I mean,
she is, but she sees daylight all the fucking time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She shouldn't be able to see daylight.
There's no fucking I hate to say it, but I don't see any fucking thing coming down on Hillary whatsoever at all.
Oh yeah, she is gonna get off scot-free. She's gonna fucking walk, and it's just a testament to the sham that is our federal police forces.
For real.
Yeah, the FBI is a goddamn joke, and they should be told they're a fucking joke. And
No.
No. That's how it's always going to be.
Taco, the FBI doesn't go. They're not a joke. They're past the fucking Keystone Cops at this point.
Yeah, no shit. Hey,
Listen,
let me break
they're
in
like-
here, guys, just a second. Dick, are you there?
Yeah, sure. I had some mic power.
What did you have an article to share with us before?
Yeah, I had something.
All right, let's take a look at it.
I hope it works. Let's give it a go.
Ooh, this'll be good.
All right.
It's completely something different.
Completely something different.
Now for something completely different.
And here's something we really hope you'll like.
Actually, can you see it?
Yeah, we see your. We see the wrong screen. So stop sharing that screen and try sharing a different screen. You were screen sharing, but you were screen sharing the wrong thing. Now you're. There you go.
Great. This is an older article. I have two. This is one to illustrate something. A while ago, there was a Turkish hotline for Erdogan to insult Angers Dutch. How do I say it? The Turkish consulate in Rotterdam and Turkish organizations got the request to report people who did hate speeches on the Turkish states and Erdogan. And
what's hate speech?
Well, insulting, insulting the Turkish president. So
shit posting.
Yes, indeed. So on Twitter, Facebook, emails. So Turkish people in the Netherlands got a request to report this.
It's AMOC all over again.
So it's you have to be a traitor for your neighbors or your friends or your family or whatever. Also, a Dutch columnist was arrested in Turkey because he wrote a column about Erdogan. So that was actually the beginning. So this is a little bit of trend, and then just to illustrate what Erdogan is busy with. Can you see it like this?
Yeah.
Okay. Turkey's Erdogan warns Muslims against birth control.
Oh God.
What?
Turkish Erdogan warns Muslims against birth control.
Oh my God.
He wants you to overpopulate Europe and take it over.
Okay. He declared himself the Pope of the Islam, something like that. And in the Netherlands, it's so that Turkish people have double passports, and they can vote for the elections in Turkey, and they can vote for the elections here in the Netherlands. So these people have double political power on our continent. And now he's actually saying from, let's breed them out. That's actually what he's saying here. So I did this. I just wanted to show this kind of tactics. And Modwayne, how is that with Moroccan people? Can they also vote double?
I think so. Yeah, I think
So-
Moroccan is also no, actually, the Netherlands allows Moroccan to keep their passports, but Morocco doesn't allow you to keep your passport and be of a different country.
Well,
So-
Tom, do you want me to tell a joke that'll probably get us both kicked off YouTube?
No.
I do.
You know what you could do though? You could like change the word or two, and then we'll understand it. Because
Oh no, it would be perfectly plain who I was talking about. So,
well, hey guys, Kraut started his live stream, so does anybody have the link to give that to me, and I'll make sure everybody gets it.
Yeah, I got it right here, actually. He just posted it on Twitter.
All right, let's see it, and we'll make sure that everybody gets it in chat. And let's get over there because this really affects us YouTube contenters. Of course, it almost didn't affect me because Magnus was going to sell me out, you motherfucker.
well, no, if I would have told that joke, this whole panel would be kicked off YouTube.
All right, everybody, let's get over to Krautstream and see what's being said over there. Thanks for coming. Appreciate it.
All right,
Thanks for
everybody.
watching, everybody.
Old man's going to bed here. By the way, Dick, I checked it for us to be sure, but yes, Moroccans can have a double nationality.
So, okay, then they can vote twice against us.
Yep.
Now,
Anyway,
that's what's happening.
All right.
Latest
Good night,
all.
everybody.
See you all latest. I'm going to bed. Have fun with crowd.
Have a nice evening.